back to the channel. My name is FancyS17 and I'll be your YouTuber today. Look at my boy Sunset. Spoiling part of the video, but hey, not to worry. We're here to look at the Object 752, otherwise known as the Russian Noodle Boy. At least in my opinion. It looks like a fucking pancake with a noodle attached to it, but I enjoy it. It's honestly a pretty good tank. It can be found in the Object 752 containers for I forget what it is, a decent drop chance, along with its camo, which is also locked behind gambling. Not the biggest concept here, but I wanted to take a look at two videos here in particular of my gameplay for once. We have one on Newport, we have one on Helios or Hellas or whatever you want to call it. But I just wanted to take a look at the actual characteristics of the tank. Obviously, this camo just looks outstanding, in my opinion. I wish Wargaming would do more camos like this, but for, tech tree tanks. Think about it. It just looks really cool to me. But, so far, we're going to push straight past this cap here. You have 8 degrees of gun depression to work with, which I think is outstanding, especially for a Russian heavy. You don't really see that in a lot of Russian heavies, and it's just something that I, quite frankly, enjoy. And we really want to try to use our awkward-looking turret, which is pretty trolly, in my opinion. Just shooting at this thing, you think you should be able to pen it, and bam, you turn around, you look at it. I was trying to make sure my lower plate was covered, because if there's a little driver's hatch there, as well as the entire front half of that egg-shaped hole that you have that is easily pennable, even when you think you're in cover, people are still finding ways to pen your hole. Your armor isn't very reliable, but it does have a lot of weird bounces. And through these replays, I really want to just hint at just some basic gameplay mechanics. Don't be me. Don't rush your shots. Rushing your shots leads to wasted ammo, wasted time reloading. This thing is a 2-shot autoloader with a 16.7 second reload, as well as a 4-second interclip. All your shots matter. Even if you're doing 430 average damage, it's really important to look at what you're shooting at and understand, hey, is this shot worth taking? This tank is very high risk, high reward, because you can be caught out in the open reloading. And once people fight this tank enough, they'll start knowing when you're reloading, because if you're just awkwardly sitting there, they're 9 out of 10 times you're reloading. And another thing to note, you only have 10 degrees of gun elevation, which makes it just as tricky to try to involve yourself with things. When you're trying to look up at something, normally you have a greater chance to hit whatever's above you if you're back far enough. But in this tank, you'll see in the next replay that that's really not the case. You really want to be able to work your 8 degrees of gun depression while still trying to manage to hide your hole. And that's genuinely interesting. This tank is very interesting. We don't have a lot of tanks like this in the game. We don't have that kind of awkward oscillated turret. The way that the PC version of this tank is described is you have the aggressiveness of a Russian heavy with the caution of a French tank. And I think that statement really does reflect this tank's playstyle. You know you're going to get penned when you push, especially in cases like this, where you're caught out in the open. They're just going to go to town on you. And that's something that you really want to be very, very aware of. This is a tank, even though you have high alpha and a very, very good burst damage, you still want to make sure that you're playing cautious. It's not a tank that can just be thrown into the battlefield like a VK-168. I mean, obviously you have all those big weak spots, but you also have the ability to just slug off shots. And where this thing doesn't excel in genuine armor, it makes up for in its gun. It reminds me a lot of the Yos, but with kind of a trollier armor. You're built around your gun rather than being built around armor, where a lot of your Russian heavies have this strong turret with this strong pike nose or a strong upper front plate and then a weak lower plate. They're backed by high alpha, kind of okay-ish DPM, especially at tier 10 when you're facing an IS-4 and IS-7. Those are monsters. And in this particular replay, I got really, really lucky. There was a lot of mistakes that I made, but I was still able to make up for it. And just reflecting back, I could have done much better in this game, I think, in my opinion, if I wasn't as impatient in certain areas. And that's kind of what this tank is kind of focused around. It's like the player, regardless of if you're good, you're a 30%er or a 90%er, you can do very good in this tank if you kind of have a basic understanding of when to peek, when to push, when to sit back, and when to risk it. Since you are heavy, you do sit around 2,000 hit points, which is kind of nice. I'm not running the extra hit points on this tank. I'm running the enhanced armor, which I think just helps with a little bit of the trolling. But the reason I pushed this way is because I want to get shots into the right. Not a lot of tanks will go for the middle for some reason, and I'm not quite sure what people were doing here. They were kind of collected off to the side here, and I was really just hoping that someone would kind of fight me in the middle, and that does eventually happen. But this is kind of a position where I want to be in. They're distracted on the left side, they're distracted on the right side, and this SU, I feel so bad for this guy. He just bounces shot after shot. And that's what I mean when this has a very trolly armor profile. I mean, he bounced the side of my turret. And you'd normally think that that's something that you can easily pen on most tanks. I mean, take the something to think about, the M6A2E1 or E2, the Goose, the EXP. As soon as you turn that turret slightly, it's like lights out for that tank. And that's how I kind of view a lot of tanks. Even this VK168, if it gets its turret turned a little too far, you're going to go right through it with heat. And that's where this tank also backs itself up with its pen. Its standard is 275, which is just very, very good. I mean, a lot of tanks are facing some good pen here, and this is no exception. You have very, very good heat pen as well, and that just, it butters through a lot of tanks. It's just really enjoyable, this tank, but it can also be very boring. I mean, think about it. You have 16 seconds to think about who you're going to shoot. You have 4 seconds between clips to figure out, do I want to keep tunneling all this damage into one person, or do I want to divvy it out? And I'm just hell-bent on trying to get this SU for some reason. I don't know why, now that I've actually looking back at this replay, that I was so interested in fighting this VK, or this SU, instead of focusing this VK. I mean, I had HE out more than I did standard. And that comes to bite me in the ass with this 168 when I could have put a shot into him, but I accidentally had HE out. And when you're on mobile, you don't have the ability to just click a number key and you're instantly right back. You have to take your hand off of the, take your thumb out of the aim reticle and then click it and then go back to aiming. And auto aim can be janky too. So, sorry, yawning, excuse me. I'm not taking this out of the cut. Anyway, you're kind of at a disadvantage, and here's where I got really, really nervous, because I'm at about half health and I'm being pushed, and there was still that object 752 there against me, and that's a very, very unique tank to go against. I've only fought 2 by myself in game. If you guys have any opinions, let me know in the comments below kind of what your thoughts are on this tank. They had announced this a while ago, and it was kind of just interesting to see it. I was happy to see it in stores, and I got it for like $5, so I wasn't really going to complain. But here's where I really got lucky. This Lova was doing whatever. I have no idea. But here's where this 10 degrees of gun elevation comes in. Some tanks you'd be able to get that shot, no problem. But bam, nope, can't. So I was kind of forced to push around, well knowing that this SU was still probably going to look at me. And then, my luck, he shifted over to the right. And once again, I rushed this shot. Dispersion got me. So, yeah, you still have rush and dispersion. You're going to have terrible dispersion, but a very good gun. And here's where I started to panic. So I have an Object 752 behind me, as well as a Vickers CR. and then I still have 2 tanks in front of me. And that's not a good situation that you want to be in, because all it takes is one good push from the enemy side and they can just converge on me. But I kind of caught that IS-6 off guard. I don't know if he was still trying to focus the heavy behind me, but I kind of get caught up here. I should have reloaded, waited it out, but I didn't for some reason. And I thought I could high roll him with AP, so I ended up loading AP instead of risking it with another HE shot, or at least lowering his health even more to where I could ram him. But I just kind of booped him with an AP, and then hit him again with another AP. But that's kind of where this tank doesn't have outstanding ammo storage, so you really got to be careful of that. I carry 16 AP, 10 heat, and then about 4 HE. HE isn't really my strong suit in this thing. Unless you're getting behind tanks, you're not really going to have the ability to use your HE unless you're down tiered. And that's kind of where this tank excels. Is it very highly excels in down tiers, where it can face tier 8s. But in tier 10, you're a sitting duck. Your armor basically means nothing at that tier. You have people who can just look at you and pen you no matter where they're looking. And like I said, 16-second reload, you got a lot of time to think where you're going to shoot, even if you're being pushed. And that's kind of where it gets a little choppy. But all in all, I think this tank, it's not OP by no means. There's a lot of things that can counter it. Anything with a high DPM is going to shred you. Anything that has a high alpha is going to look at you and you're going to die. But you really need to be careful. Just to recap, you need to be careful poking. You need to know when to be aggressive, but you still need to play cautious. It's hard for me to compare it to any other tanks. I've been asked to compare it to like the Yos or the Emils, and it doesn't really fall into either of those categories. It's somehow unique to me. I'm not a fan of the 2-shot autoloaders, but if you kind of appreciate that, I think this tank is perfect for you. And like I said, feel free to give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. If you like what you're seeing, make sure to subscribe. And I do apologize for not making as much content. I've been really busy with life, and I'm finally getting myself on track. I do have a video series planned, and we are going to be bringing back the historical videos. So if you enjoy that, well, that might be up your alley. I was asked by a subscriber, I should possibly look into doing the Pershings. So if you really like American tanks as well as the Pershings, then bam, you're good to go. Like I said, I really do like this camo, and it's just absolutely outstanding. But yeah, it's always been fun hanging out with you guys. I really appreciate anyone who actually takes their time to watch these videos, and stay happy, stay healthy, and live frosty, my friends. I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.